model car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ral, and this week's build here I'm featuring is somewhat of an older build of mine, but this is AMT's 1967 Shelby GT350, and this is by far my favorite Shelby Mustang. I've always liked the body on this one, the scoops, everything about it, the fact that it came with a big block, a lot of that stuff, and to me it's just the ultimate. Didn't really get into the 68 styling as much, and 69 and 70s didn't quite appeal to me. I think the stripes had a lot to do with it, but just the overall look of this car, and just drew me to it. I remember the first time I seen one at an all Ford show with my dad, because we'd go take the T-Bird and go to Ford shows, and one of the first times I seen one of these, I was just amazed. Thought it was a custom. I didn't know what it was. But, you know, after that and reading magazines and seeing them in the magazines and reading more about them, I knew I really liked them. So to me, it's just one of my just absolute favorites, just everything about it. But when it comes to the 67 Mustang, it's got a lot of stories and a lot of history in it, which is, to me, even more fascinating the more I've learned and read about them than I knew. There's just a ton of stuff, really. I mean, I can make this a really long video. So I'll touch on the GT500 a little bit, but I'll pretty much stick with the GT350, which is what this is. And since I do have plans to do other builds, I'll get into those as well. But this one, when it came to the 67 Shelbys, Shelby had realized that, you know, not many people wanted an actual race car for the street. They wanted a race-looking car, but much more street drivable. So when it came to the race components and some of the things, he started to leave all of that alone and started to get more and more towards looks and appearance. So the 67 really got a whole lot more fiberglass, and there's a number of running changes in the fiberglass, but there were certain things that he wanted to do, and he wanted to make it a bit more aggressive. So one of the things that he wanted to do was make this front end longer. So the front end is actually 3 inches longer, but it turned into a bit more of a headache than he was expecting too, as he had his designers working on it. And making the front end bigger and longer, but keeping the fenders, that worked out. And then they decided they were going to keep the original bumper, but they had to come up with new brackets because now it's moved farther forward. But they had to work on all of that, then design a new hood that was 3 inches longer, and, you know, of course, the trunk, the scoops here, and even the scoops on the side, which they were taking some of the look from the GT40s, especially since they won in '66, and they wanted to get some of that look to them, and people wanted a racy looking car. So they were really enjoying some of that stuff, and what the final thing to me is just awesome. But there were a couple of things. I had read Shelby still wanted to keep the clear windows in here. They were much more practical. You could see out of them. The rear passengers didn't feel quite as claustrophobic. Rear seat was now standard. The fold down rear seat was just part of the Fastback option. And he really wanted to do that, but one of the other designers wanted the scoops. Now, they did do one or two with the windows, and Carroll Shelby himself liked it, but he agreed it looked funny on the inside. Couldn't get it to quite work, and it didn't look right to him. So he agreed that the scoops looked better, and they went with the scoops. Another thing that was kind of interesting is the body that Ford gave them to use to make the fiberglass was actually a crash-tested body. They knew it was a little bit worked, straightened it. But the fiberglass initially, especially the hoods were notorious, but a lot of the fiberglass didn't fit the initial batches, which delayed production and was a headache for a number of things. So when you see unrestored cars and ill-fitting fiberglass, that's normal and to be expected on an unrestored car. Matter of fact, the hood is notorious for being high on one side, and they just would not fit some of the original hoods. And another thing that Shelby had done was they wanted to go with the inboard headlights. And so they did that as well, but found out real quickly that that was not legal in a lot of the states. And same thing with the red light that was back here. They put a red light back in the scoop. So very early cars have those. Red lights were reserved to only emergency vehicles at the time. Now remember, this is 67 before they had the side marker lights, and that became mandatory. I think it would have squeaked by in 68, but in 67 that was no. So California, these inboard headlights were not legal, and in a few other states. So he had to scramble and come out with the outboard grill headlights, which you see, but it's not on the model kit. And work on the fiberglass. So early cars have different fiberglass than later cars, especially in the rear taillight area and some of this stuff. But also, these are Cougar taillights, but without the chrome on top of them. And they were much harder to fit than they thought they were going to be, because they really had to cut the original Mustang's tail panel to clearance that. And there's a fiberglass panel that goes on top. But they did all of that work, so the body required a lot more tweaking, but once they had gotten it figured out, it was much easier. Mechanically, there was much less done to it. They did a lot of it at Ford. It still got the 289 K-code car, but with Shelby's intake carburetor, and still the 300, I think it was 306 horsepower. Headers were available. So this one was the higher tuned engine. And the supercharger was still available in 67. However, it was an $800 option, making it $500 more than the GT500 base price. So pretty expensive. So that's why you really don't see superchargers in 67. Another thing, and this model kit has them, and a ton of them do, the Le Mans stripes were not available after 66. So technically no 67 Shelbys came with the Le Mans stripes from Shelby, and these were built in the San Jose plant. So none of them technically got them. Dealers added them. A lot of people added them. A ton of cars have them and have had them forever. So, you know, and original owners requested them, but they were not an option. Like the 66 and 65 cars, they were, and they were, you know, a lot of dealers painted them, and they were recommended to be done at the dealer, but it was an option, but you know, it was a dealer installed option, but very few of the 65s and 66s actually got the stripes at the San Jose plant, but the 67s, none of them did. Another thing, getting into the GT500s just a tad, the engine was a 428 Police Interceptor, and it was pretty much stone stock from Ford, other than they swapped the intake. They used the 427 R motors, dual quad aluminum intake, dual carbs, and everything that was on the 66 and 67 Galaxy R models. There were 3 427s actually done, as there was a $2,000 option for the 427 side oiler that I've read about, and 2 of those were made. And of course the 427 Super Snake car, which actually got a GT40 Le Mans 427 with a single 4-barrel. That's one I want to build, so I'll get more into that particular car at another time. But when it comes to this one, being the GT350, it's a bit more of the tune car. The GT500 used a lot of the Ford parts, but it was the only way you can get the 428 in the Mustang, as it wasn't available in the Mustang. Only the 390 was the biggest engine, but all of these got the 428s. And there were a number of coupes made. There was 26 coupes. Most of them were race cars, not really sold to the public. Tons of fastbacks. There's one coupe, Little Red. I want to build that car, which is a 428 coupe, and that was an engineering mule. And there was one 428 convertible also made, also, you know, right at the same time. I want to build that one as well. So those ones I want to do and get full feature on that. But let's take this outside, go show it in the sunlight, and we'll talk more about the actual kit and builds and some of the other things I love about this kit. So here we go. Well, here we are out in the Arizona sun, checking out this blue here. I really like this color. It's too bad they don't make it anymore. This is Tester's Model Master. It was an old engine blue, just a really nice metallic, and I used it a lot back then. I I still have some too, but just really, for what was available back then in color choices, we didn't have as many colors, like factory stock colors like we do now. Don't remember anybody around like Scale Finish or anything. But testers did start getting some of their own factory color sprays and bottle paints. Me airbrushing, it was the bottle paints, but this was one of my favorites, and there was probably like 10 model kits I had used this color on. This being one of them. Not all of them are still around, but I love this color. And I remember those decals going on fairly well. Didn't fight me too much, just that one section of the tail panel. That's paint, which stands out here. But this thing's looking really good. Love this in the sun here. And I'm gonna go grab the other two, show them, because I'm gonna do glimpses of my two Eleanors. But stay towards the end of the video where I'll do some shots of those in the sun as well. All right, well, I bet you this blue looked pretty good in the sun, and this is one that I built back in when it first came out, so I would think it was 1995, 96, somewhere right around there. And this is airbrush paint. This is actually Tester's Olds Engine Blue, which was like my favorite blue metallic that was available in a Tester's Model Master paint. So that's what I used on this. And this AMT kit developed during the early years. Great kit, and compared to the 68, it's just a way better kit. It's not perfect, but I just love it. And it's kind of funny that I really only have a bunch of them, but this is the one I had built, and I kind of tweaked it and updated it just a little bit from my original build, but not by much. I had some issues in the back getting the decals to work, so you can see that behind the taillights, that's actually not decal, that's just white paint. The rest of it is decals. You can see some of the bubbles here. And I put, I think I put foil on the backside of these taillights. Maybe I didn't. I don't think I did. But it's hard to debate anyway. But my original build didn't have bare metal foil on it. I tore it apart and refoiled all of this stuff, cleaned it up. And I did that probably like 15 years ago. And then the wheels, they should not be redline tires, but these are the tires that came. I added the redline tires when I touched up the build. But this really should have black Goodyear tires with just a Goodyear lettering, not polyglass or anything, just Goodyear. I'd love to get tires like that, or at least decals that do that, but I really don't know anybody to source them from. And here's the engine on it, and the hood's pretty cool. Love this scoop. This should all be actually black if I remember right, not body color. But there's the kit's $289 with the iron manifolds and everything, but pretty cool. And it doesn't have the aluminum oil pan. 67s really didn't, but you could buy it and add it. But like I said, they pretty much didn't reinforce these quite as much as they did the 65 and 66s. They just were leaving it alone, kind of like how Ford did it. But the grill was a different grill, recessed a little bit. And these headlights, they're just nice. They fit really well, and they look really nice. But yeah, more decals and stuff. But I've got tons of them that I want to build. Like the kit itself, thankfully it's been reissued a couple of times, but the original issue, red box, and then they were getting hard to find. There's a couple issues there. And then in 2013, they finally reissued it with the black box art cars, and then more recently the tin. So throw all of those up there. But I love building this car, and it's kind of funny that I don't have any more stock 67s built. Now, it's also kind of odd that I haven't shown this one to you, being that it's my favorite Shelby, and I like those wheels. Even though the decals, are a little too far back, but that's how they were. The GT350 should not be on the door jamb. But, on the channel, I have shown the Eleanor I built. So here's the 67 Eleanor, so I'll show that to you guys. And this is the resin body. Scale Productions of DE. And this is an old build now too, but this one I had a lot of fun doing. And even though the Eleanor car is really cool, I don't want to say it's my favorite 67 Mustang. I like the car, and I've got a full video on this particular one. And then more recently, just a couple years back on the channel, I built my convertible Eleanor, which this is a resin body that I had done as well. But there's a full story on this one. But I left this one pretty much with the 289, but I put the oval air cleaner on it and just had some fun with it. But really, this one did fight me a little bit, but you know, I love building these cars, and these are just kind of fun, just to have a little bit of fun with, make a convertible. But like that convertible, it actually started as just me playing around, and it got far enough away that it looked really good. But I do plan to make a convertible of this, make that GT500 experimental convertible. I've also got Jerry Chevalier's 67 Little Red Coupe body. I want to build that car as well. The Super Snake, another one of these GT350s, and another one with the GT500, basically doing an engine swap into it, which there are a couple of engines now that are easy to do, some 3D printed ones, and Kevin and Missing Link used to do one, and I have that as well. And even my Super Snake has a 427 resin engine that came from Perry's resin. So, and even a photo etch kit that is now available from Model Car Garage. I bought a bunch of those. But I've got some of the super rare resin, and not resin, but the photo etch from a resin kit. As many years ago, in late 80s, early 90s, I was attempting to build this car, and there was a resin nose conversion kit from MPB Detail Products to put on the 68. And I was doing that, but I didn't get the resin front end on square. The hood wouldn't fit. I was having some issues with it, and eventually that project ended up in the dumpster. But the photo etch stuff I've kept, and I've had all these years, which is nice stuff. But now that you can get it from Model Car Garage and stuff, that makes it even better, and decals. So now, I've got more of these to build, but I haven't built any of them in a while. So I do want to get back to one of these 67s and get it finished. But I figured I would share this one with you, and a lot of the fun that goes with it, and some of my earlier pictures of it from back then. And I got this one right here with the headlights. The flash just caught it just right, and it looks like it's glowing. But that's an early, before the bare metal foil and cleanup, but it wasn't really redone. But anyway, you guys, thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I really do appreciate it. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, Hobby Nut Models. There'll be a link in the video description below. And check out what he's got, as he is having a sale this month. And you guys, thank you for all your comments and everything, and you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time. All right, here we are with this one out in the Arizona sun here. This pepper gray 67 Eleanor from the movie Gone in 60 Seconds. And really love how this one came out. It's definitely a nice resin kit. This one's from Scale Productions, and I had purchased a few of these. I've got a whole nother video on this this build here, but I don't believe I did this in the sun at that time. I wasn't really doing that, but so you guys can see what this looks like in the sun. And all right, let's pull out the convertible. Now that color, look at that. This one is Scale Finishes paint, and love this. And the stripes in black are painted on as well. Of course, there's a whole bunch of videos, or a few videos on this one, when I built this one on the channel and painting it multiple colors. Because I initially wanted to do it yellow, but then I went with this orange color, which it's a Corvette color, and I'm trying to think of what it was. I know in the main video I talked, Atomic Orange, I believe. But yeah, it's a Corvette color. I just don't quite remember what I called it, or what it's called. But yeah, it's looking really good.